The first thing Arlen noticed was the silence. The forest road between Greyhaven and the border forts was never truly quiet. There were always insects humming, distant wolves calling, the creak of wagon wheels. But that evening the air felt tight and watchful. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Arlen adjusted the strap of his satchel and kept walking. He was no hero, just a courier with ink stains on his fingers and a short sword at his side. He carried letters, trade contracts, sometimes news of births or deaths. Nothing glorious. Then he heard it, a sharp cry. Not human. Not quite. He left the road and pushed through the underbrush. Branches scraped his cloak. The smell of iron reached him before the clearing came into view. 3 men stood in a ring. Mercenaries, by the look of them. One held a crossbow. Another gripped a hooked spear. The third laughed as he kicked someone on the ground. Arlen stepped into the clearing. On the dirt lay a girl, green skin, dark braids matted with blood, tusks small and curved like ivory crescents. Her leather armor was torn at the shoulder. She tried to rise, and one of the men struck her down. Again an orc. Arlen's heart pounded. Orcs were enemies of the kingdom, raiders, monsters from childhood stories. He had never seen one this close. He had never seen one look so young. The mercenary with the crossbow glanced up. Move along, courier. This one's bounty. The girl's eyes found Arlen's. They were not wild, not savage. They were afraid. Arlen swallowed. She's injured. Let her go. The men laughed. She's killed 2 farmers this month, the spearman said. Village posted silver for her head. The girl shook her head weakly. Lies, she rasped. Her voice was rough but clear. I hunt deer, not farmers. The mercenary kicked her again to silence her. Something inside Arlen snapped. He did not think. He drew his sword. The fight was short and messy. Arlen was not trained for glory, but desperation sharpened him. He ducked the first swing, slashed the spearman's thigh, drove his shoulder into the crossbowman before he could fire. Steel rang. Blood sprayed. A knife grazed Arlen's ribs. Pain flared white. But the mercenaries were not expecting resistance from a courier when it was over. Two lay groaning, and one fled into the trees. Arlen stood trembling, sword slick in his hand. The orc girl was trying to sit up. He approached slowly. Easy. She watched him as if he might turn on her at any moment. Why? She asked. Arlen blinked. Why what? Why help me? He had no answer that made sense. So he said the only truth he had, because they were wrong. She studied him. Then she gave a small nod. My name is Luthra, she said. I'm Arlen. He knelt and examined her shoulder. The wound was deep but clean. He tore strips from his undershirt and bound it tight. She did not flinch. Her skin was warm beneath his shaking fingers. You cannot walk far, he said. I can, she insisted. She tried to stand and nearly fell. Arlen caught her. For a moment they froze, his hands on her arms, her breath close against his neck. She was taller than him, even injured. Strong, solid, and shaking. My camp is 2 miles east, she said quietly. If you help me there, I will not forget. Arlen hesitated. Helping her had already marked him. If anyone learned what he had done, he could be branded a traitor. But he nodded. They moved slowly through the forest. Luthra leaned on him more than she wished. He could feel the weight of her strength, even diminished. He expected her to smell of sweat and blood and wildness. Instead, she smelled of pine and crushed leaves as the sun dipped low. They reached a small clearing near a stream. A simple tent stood there. A bow rested against a tree. A cooking pot hung cold over dead coals. "You live alone?" Arlen asked. "For now," she said. He helped her sit by the stream. She washed the blood from her face. Without the grime, she looked younger, not a monster, not a warrior queen, just a girl far from home. "Why are you here?" he asked gently. "My clan does not want war," she said, "but some of our hunters cross borders. Humans see all of us as one blade." Arlen looked at the water. He could not deny it. "And you?" she asked. "Why walk alone through a forest that fears my kind?" "I carry messages," he said with a small smile. "Paper is less frightening than swords." She studied him again. "You do not fear me." "I did," he admitted. For about 3 seconds, a faint laugh escaped her. It was low and warm. Night settled around them. Arlen built a small fire. He stayed, though he told himself he should leave. The road was not far. His duty waited, but Luthra's shoulder needed watching. That was the excuse he gave himself. They shared dried meat from his satchel and herbs from her pouch. She told him of her clan's mountain valleys, of stone halls carved into cliffs, of songs sung to the moon. He told her of Greyhaven's crowded markets and the way the harbor looked at dawn. "You speak of your city like it is a person," she said. "It is loud and stubborn," he replied. "So yes." She smiled again. The firelight softened her sharp features. Her tusks caught the glow. Her eyes reflected gold. "Arlen," she said after a while, "if your people knew you sat with me, what would they do?" He stared into the flames. "They would say I was bewitched, or foolish, and are you?" Probably. Silence stretched, but it was no longer tense. A distant howl echoed through the trees. Luthra stiffened. "Wolves?" he asked. "Not wolves," she murmured. From the darkness came movement. Shadows slipping between trunks. The mercenary who fled stepped into the firelight with 4 others. "I told you," he sneered to his companions. "Orc, which hiding out here, and look, she's charmed herself a pet human." Arlen rose slowly, hand on his sword. Luthra tried to stand, and pain forced her back down. "You should have left," she whispered. "Too late," he said. The mercenaries advanced. Arlen fought again, but exhaustion dragged at his limbs. A blade cut his thigh. A fist struck his jaw. He fell to one knee. Then the forest roared. Luthra moved. Injured or not, she was a storm given flesh. She seized her bow and loosed arrows with terrifying precision. One man fell, then another. She charged the third with a knife, green skin blazing in firelight. Arlen staggered up and joined her. Together they drove the rest into retreat when it was over. The clearing was silent except for their ragged breathing. Arlen looked at her in awe. "You said you hunt deer," he managed. "I do," she replied, wiping blood from her blade. "But I protect my own." She swayed. Arlen caught her again. This time he did not think about it. They collapsed beside the dying fire. His leg throbbed. Her shoulder bled through the bandage. "You saved me twice," she said softly. "You saved me back," he answered. She reached out and touched his chest. Not a shove. Not a test. A gentle press over his heart. Why does it beat so loud? She asked. He realized it was racing. Because, he said slowly, I am afraid of me. He met her gaze. No. The truth settled between them like a third presence. He was afraid of what this meant. Afraid of the world beyond the trees. Afraid of the way her hand felt warm and steady over his heart. Luthra's expression shifted. Something fierce and vulnerable at once. In my clan, she said, when someone saves your life, you owe them a debt. You owe me nothing. She shook her head. Not a debt of blood. Her fingers curled lightly into his shirt. A debt of heart. The night wrapped around them. The fire burned low. The world beyond the clearing felt distant and small. Arlen leaned forward before he could reconsider. His forehead touched hers. Her skin was cool from the night air. His breath mingled with hers. He had never kissed an orc. He had never kissed anyone like this. When their lips met, it was not gentle at first. It was clumsy and uncertain and full of unspoken fear. Then it softened, slowed, deepened. The forest did not protest. Stars turned above them in that quiet clearing. With danger still fresh in the air and blood staining the earth, Arlen felt something shift inside him. Not stolen, not taken by force, given freely. He had saved the beautiful orc girl. But in return, that night, he lost his heart. Not to magic, not to debt. To Luthra. By dawn, he knew he would not return to Greyhaven as the same man. Whether he left with her or she walked beside him into the world of humans, nothing would be simple again. But as she slept with her head resting against his shoulder, her breath steady and warm, Arlen found he did not regret it. For the first time, the silence of the forest felt like peace, and he was ready to face whatever came with her at his side. Asterisk.